Well, hello, and welcome to episode 229 of Drink the Movies. I'm Brian here, as always, with Michaela. And Michaela, did you know that if you were ever invited over to dinner at Quentin Tarantino's house and you said, Quentin, what's one of your favorite movies of all time? He's going to say Dazed and Confused.
Well, that tracks, Brian. That tracks. Because Quentin Tarantino is known for like really convoluted plots and like lots and lots of dialogue. And then like an amalgamation at the end that like everything kind of comes whole, and you're at the end you're left thinking that you just watched something epic and you have no idea what actually happened. That makes sense.
Mm,
This makes perfect sense. For example, um, Pulp Fiction, right? Like the whole time, you're
yeah.
like, what is happening? We're going back in time, we're going forward in time. Like we understand what's happening, but we don't really understand what's happening. And I feel like that is exactly what it was like for watching Dazed and Confused for the very first time, which I did for the sake of this podcast. Yes, ladies, gentlemen, people of all genders, I had never seen this film before. Please don't hold it against me. So I'm watching this as a 40 something year old adult. And I feel like I think that was my problem number one. Just that I was not a 17-year-old kid watching this thing. It's really, yeah.
Well, luckily for you, you did want to have one of our cocktails called the All Right, All Right, All Right. We're going to be making that up here in just a second. So, Michaela, let's do this. You mentioned Pulp Fiction. That's more of a non-linear storytelling kind of a tale, and Dazed and Confused is more of a slice of life kind of a tale. But we're going to talk about that after we make our drink. So let's go ahead and do this. Let's go ahead and take a quick break. We'll grab some pineapple rum, and we'll be right back to mix up this week's cocktail.
All right, all right. Here's the deal. Here's the deal.
All right, all
When
right.
I was
You
looking,
gotta put some enthusiasm into it.
all right, all right, all right. Look,
That was the
I
line that
didn't
started a
know.
whole career, Oscar
It
winning. Come on,
sure,
show
it
some
sure did.
show some respect.
Do you know, I never knew where this was from. Like it was always the
Mm.
thing that he would say live, like when he won his Oscar, he said it. When Matthew McConaughey was on stage talking about something else that was important to him, he always starts with "all right, all right, all right." And I was like, "Where is this from?" I had no idea that it comes all the way that we go all the way back to 1993, but really we go back to 1976 to deal with this. And so when I was looking for a cocktail, Brian,
Hmm. Yeah.
I there's a ton of cocktails that pay homage to Dazed and Confused, but only one of them had a fake doobie, and I was like,
Yeah.
this sounds. I hadn't seen the movie. I didn't really know what it was about, but I was like, this sounds like a real good idea. So I want to preface this by saying, folks, this was not there. There was no THC, no illegal substances in this at all. The pictures make it look like it's a real doob. I'm very proud of myself because having never rolled a joint
It looks
in
pretty
my
good. Yeah,
entire
yeah.
life, I rolled a joint made of sage and oregano, and put used a little clip to put it on. I was very proud of myself. I had to go to a smoke shop and get the
Very
right
nice.
papers.
Oh,
That was
okay.
great because the woman
Wow.
came to, yeah, oh yeah, it was wonderful. The woman
All
totally
right.
showed up and was like, "You don't look like you belong here. What can I get you?" And I was like, "I don't, papers? Do you have papers?" She was like, "Yeah, okay." Okay, Kieran. Anyway, so this drink is called the All Right, All Right. But it's actually more than just a drink. It's a drink that you can find in Huntington Beach, California, in the Pacific Hideaway, which is inside this hotel that looks really funky and cool. And
Hmm.
I'm
Hmm.
sad because we were in California. I don't have any idea where Huntington Beach is in relative to
Relation
in
or
relation,
relative?
that's the word, in
Relative? Yeah.
relation to where we were in LA. But now I need to go back. We need to go back and buy, a couple of these because I'm sure it looks much better than
Yeah,
mine. They
for sure.
probably roll a lot of joints there. So,
California has done us pretty good. We got the cocktail here called the All Right, All Right. For this film, we went to California Tiki Bar for our Doors, Jim Morrison cocktail. So I feel like California has some sort of aesthetic that we need to go check out for sure. But this drink, it's delicious. It is pretty simple to put together, save for like one ingredient that you're going to have to make, but not too bad. And another ingredient that you're going to have to buy. But I have to be honest with you because I bought a bottle of this and I'm very excited about it. So let's go ahead and put one of these together. Now, the recipe we found was basically like a Facebook video. So we're kind of trying to like eyeball what to make. And I think you made yours actually a little bit different than I ended up making mine. We can talk about that here. But what we've got written down for this is 1 1/4 ounces of pineapple rum, 3/4 of an ounce of lime ginger syrup, 3/4 of an ounce of demerara syrup, which is just like a dark brown sugar or a cane sugar. So you can kind of swap those in or out as you would please. And then 3/4 of an ounce of dark rum. Go ahead and shake that with some ice, and then you can strain it into a glass with some fresh ice is the way I'd go about it. And then you can garnish it with, you can either make your fig doobie there with sage and oregano in your wrapping paper, or you could just tuck a little bit of sage and oregano down in there. I also think this works really well with some rosemary that you can kind of give a little blowtorch to, and it's going to smoke and give you kind of that rosemary flavor. I think that that
Mm,
flavor pairs up with this drink really, really well as well. So let's address a couple of things here. So we've got the pineapple rum. Right, Michaela? So
mhm.
the one they recommend using there, both at the Pacific Hideaway and in the video that we watched, is the Plantation Pineapple Rum, which is a higher end rum. It's made out of an aged rum. I think it's from Barbados. That one's delicious. You could definitely get pineapple rum like in the like Captain Morgan variety or like
Mm,
Cruisin' if you wanted to save some money because the plantation one is a little bit more expensive. That one's going
yeah.
to be much sweeter tasting, much more like pineapple, like poppy in the nose kind of thing. So depending on what you're
Hmm.
going for, that could be okay or not. Just kind of go with whatever you want to do there. But this lime ginger syrup, why don't you talk about making it? Because I did mine a little differently than you did, I think.
So I went to the store and I got some ginger. Okay. And you're going to want to shave the ginger because it's got that weird rind. I don't know. It doesn't need to be, you're going to strain this, so it doesn't need to be perfect, but I kind of cut some of that off. I
Hmm.
put it
Yeah,
into
it's
chunks, put it in
mhm.
simple syrup. And now simple syrup is generally 1 parts sugar, 1 parts water that you heat just until the sugar melts. You don't want to boil it. Don't do that because then it'll become candy. But what you're going to do is you're going to put this ginger in the simple syrup and you're going to let it steep. Now, anywhere from like a couple hours to a couple days if you want, depending on how gingery you want it. And then you're going to strain it and then you're going to have it for, it'll last for a couple weeks in your fridge. So that's what I did. And then what I did was add just a little bit of lime juice at the end because I didn't know if I wanted like an entire cup full of ginger lime simple syrup. So
Mhm.
I took a little bit of simple syrup, maybe like 2 or 3 tablespoons and added some lime juice until it got to a consistency and a flavor profile that kind of where I could taste the lime in like end as well as the ginger. And that's what I did. That's how I made mine.
Oh, okay. Yep, absolutely. And that's kind of the way that the video makes it look. If you look at the
Hmm.
recipe from the Pacific Hideaway, it has the ginger and lime listed separately. So I went ahead and did that. I made a ginger syrup very similar to the way that you did. But in my cocktail, I used 1/4 of an ounce of that and then a half
Hmm.
ounce of just lime juice in mine. I was worried that it was going to be too sweet to have both, 3/4 of an ounce of the demerara syrup and 3/4 of an ounce of the simple syrup. So I
Yeah.
cut that and just used some lime juice there. And I think that it made the cocktail a little bit more expressive, probably, especially you're talking about rums, which
Hmm.
are sweeter, kind of in structure anyways. Uh, but I have to say that I like this a lot. We've been doubling down on tiki drinks here over the last couple of months here on the podcast between this and lobby bars and just our personal drinking, at home. But this was a good one, and this pineapple rum is delicious. I can't wait to play around with it a little bit more. What did you think about the sage and oregano? Did it add anything to it? It gave you a lesson, I guess, in what it would have been like to be in Austin, Texas in 1976, I guess, at
Sure.
least.
Yeah. I mean, I have to say, I'm not good at rolling joints. I made a couple of
Practice
these
makes
because I
perfect,
wanted.
they say, Michaela, I guess.
That is what they
I
say.
hear, I don't
Um,
know.
I don't know either. But it was really neat because you kind of light it and it kind of lit and smoked itself, which was kind of interesting. Like you don't smoke it. Let me just make that clear. You put it as a garnish and you light it, and it kind of smokes. And you get this really lovely kind of aromatics of the sage and of the oregano. And so it's kind of I don't know, it's fresh, it's very earthy, and then you take a sip. And I used the higher end plantation pineapple rum, and I think that's really, I don't know, I think that elevated this cocktail a lot because I had Malibu. like flavored pineapple rum. But it would have been much sweeter, like much more pineapple-y and very
Hmm.
just like a Mai Tai in your mouth. And this really helped create an extra layer of flavor and made it like a more inspired, kind of grown-up, mature cocktail that you would get at, a higher end mixology bar or something. And I really liked that. I thought it was cool. Like it's a neat trick, right? Like the garnish looks like a doob, and I don't know. I thought that that was cool. I had to try and do what they did, right? But I don't think it's necessarily needed to enjoy the cocktail, especially if you're in a hurry or you don't have smoking papers. I mean, there was a lot. It was a whole production to make that do because I don't smoke pot. But but it was cool. I really liked it. I loved this drink. I thought it was a probably one of my favorites that we've done this summer. Just because it had everything in it. It had some really cool ingredients that we hadn't done and worked with before, and it had a really lovely flavor profile that was special. I'm definitely making it again for sure. It was delicious.
Absolutely, absolutely. It would have done Wooderson proud, no doubt. So let's do this, Michaela. Let's go ahead. We'll mix up another one of these cocktails. I'll see if you can roll some more sage and oregano for us, and we'll be right back to chat about this week's film, Dazed and Confused.
This country is founded by people who were in the aliens, man. George Washington, man, he was in a cult, and the cult was in the aliens, man. You didn't know that?
No.
Oh, man, they were way into that type of stuff, man.
Spoiler warning for Dazed and Confused. I don't know why I'm giving you a spoiler warning because everybody who's anybody has seen this film apparently but me. But we're going to talk about all the things. We're going to talk about all of the things that happen in this movie. So, if you don't want to be spoiled and you haven't seen this film, you should press pause right now. You should go make yourself an all right, because it's delicious, whether or not you make the the dupe and put it on the side or not. It's a good one. But then you should watch the movie. It's only an hour and 42 minutes, and then you can come back and we can chat about all things Dazed and Confused.
Absolutely, yeah. You've had plenty of time to see this if you haven't by now, and because it was released in 1993. It was written and directed by Richard Linklater, and it stars basically everyone who was at the top of like casting call lists in the early 90s, I feel like, in some way,
Yeah.
shape, or form.
Yeah.
Uh, so,
Anyone who was
uh,
going to be anybody by 1998 became
Yeah,
was somebody in this
somebody,
film.
somebody right here, including two very notable ones, and we'll talk about them here. So, this stars Jason London, Rory Cochrane, Joey Lauren Adams, Mila Jovovich, Adam Goldberg, Anthony Rapp, Sasha Jensen, Wiley Wiggins, Ben Affleck, and of course Matthew McConaughey. There, all right, all right, all right. So, I wanted to talk about Richard Linklater here a little bit. So, Richard Linklater. Has a knack, I guess, for writing and directing these slice of life type of films, right? He got started with Slacker, I think was the first big one. Came out in 1990. It's very much a cult classic kind of a movie, and that basically got the ball rolling. I think it is more or less kind of the same kind of a thing, right? I think it's based close to or in Austin, Texas, the same as this film. It's kind of just a slice of life, day in the life of, a couple of these people running around town, just setting like the tone for this town, and that's more or less what this film comes into being. But Linklater goes on to be nominated for five Oscars, so for best writing for Before Sunset and Before Midnight, and also the best writing uh, nomination for Boyhood, best director and best picture for that film as well. Another, slice of life sort of a thing. That one's a little bit different because it spans over, I think, like 12 years or
Mm,
something like that. But
yeah.
yeah, very much just taking a look just kind of at the regular everyday life of the character, and that's really exactly what this is, Michaela. Now, you kind of alluded to it at the top a little bit. This movie is pretty listless. I don't know, really. We'll talk about the movie and then kind of get into our final thoughts about it a little bit. But I don't think that you particularly cared for this. Watching it in your 40s, not high, is a little different than watching it, in your early 20s, late teens, that kind of a thing. Because really, a slice of life film exists to showcase characters in these situations. So if you don't have anything that links you to that, they can get a little bit meandering. But it's definitely a movie uh, style that um, I kind of enjoy looking because it's
Mm,
almost like avant-garde in a way.
yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, look, you're right. I did not love this film. In fact, I do remember in the middle of it texting a friend of mine who was like, "This is one of my favorite films of all time," and I was like, respectfully, why? Explain this to me. But I think, yeah, I wasn't around in 1976. I wasn't in high school, and I didn't watch this in the 1990s high. So I think I missed the boat there, and I really feel like I missed it because there's 100 million people can't be wrong in thinking that this is like one of the great films of the 90s, right?
Mhm.
So it's really the joke's on me, not the other way around. I think one of the things that I really did see here was if you were nostalgic for that period of time, it definitely, like, the art direction and the set design was incredible. It
Mhm.
definitely felt like Austin, Texas today. Like looking at some of the things and some of the shots, I was like, oh my gosh, this
Right.
is it. I mean, and coming from, I lived in Texas for 30 years, so I felt kind of,
Except all those kids' houses are worth like $14 million now. So.
yeah, now they are for sure. And the cars, I mean, some of that stuff was just really, really cool. So I understood and appreciated some of the nostalgia. I feel like there is a really famous play called Our Town, right? And at the end of the play, spoiler warning, they talk about going back at the end of your life and picking one day to relive. And
Hmm.
it can't
Hmm.
be and they caution you. They say, these elders are kind of counseling this person, and they're like, it can't be a really important day. It needs to be just a day that you would have forgotten 20, 20, 30 years from then. It needs to just be like a medium important day. And this, it feels like if you could go back and you were Mitch, you were that kid,
Hmm.
that this, and again, there's 47 people in this movie, but like if you could go back and relive one day, what would it be? And it would be this day where, like, we didn't think anything of this idea of totally chasing down people and bullying them because now they're freshmen, and the seniors get to like strut their stuff, and then there are parties that never end, and the kids that are 15 are staying out all night and their parents are cool with it. Like it definitely harkens back to this time that seems a lot more dangerous, yet a lot more innocent at the same time, which is
Hmm.
strange to me, right? And I think that that's probably why it is still like holds a reverent place, a beloved place in people's hearts, even if they weren't around to experience that time in 1976.
Yeah, absolutely. It does definitely harken back to that time, and this would have been a time before either of us were born and alive. But I think that you do have some sort of reverie for that time period if you definitely were in school like in that time, especially in that part of the country. I have no idea in central Ohio if like our mid to late 70s aesthetic was the same. I don't know for sure, but you definitely get that feeling. Like this was set in Austin, Texas, but I feel like it could have been like most places, kind of in through like the middle of the country. Probably would have been very similar to this, emphasis on the high school football, emphasis on the celebration of the last day of school. It is the bicentennial of the country, all that stuff. So this is a slice of life film. There's not really any sort of plot point, really. It's just kind of following through this day, and that in itself is the story. But I do like that it starts off with the Aerosmith song, Free Emotion, which is really great because if there is one sort of like singular plot thread, it's that these kids are trying to decide if they're going to go to an Aerosmith concert, and I think that is pretty great. And the soundtrack for this film is great as well. You should check it out, even if you're not a fan of the movie, because it is basically like late 70s audible joy for your ears. Absolutely. So let's talk about just a couple of the plot points. Just, kind of pick out anything that you want to mention here on any of these things, Michaela. But let's start. It's the last day of school. My favorite part about this, well, if you're like the prop master, did they have like a special like marijuana prop master? Like you're in charge of like the other stuff, like you get like, telephones for the houses, you get like, accessories for the kids and stuff. And then your job is to just maintain all of the fake marijuana that's on set because I love it. They're in school, like they're like hitting bongs like in the middle like of their classroom and stuff. Like it's like bananas. Like it's so like over the top. Like just how into the weed these kids are.
Well, and how it's not illegal yet. Right. So
Yeah.
my dad, God bless him, Daddy, if you're listening, I love you. I remember he sat down. I mean, I was a child of the '80s, and so were you, right? We were dare
Hmm.
kids. It was like the whole point was to like stay in school and don't do drugs. Like that was
That's
how we
right.
were not going to
Yeah.
mess up our lives, right? Like, and my dad, I remember him telling me, he was like, Michaela, it's only been the last 15 years or 10 years where this stuff is actually illegal. In the '60s, like, and then the
Hmm.
70s, I guess it was so you could do pot in school in the cafeteria. And I was like, no, Dad, that's it. Just blew my mind. It seemed so wild. And granted, this is pot. We're not shooting heroin into our eyeballs. It's a little different, but I was just like, no way. And yes, this is I did text my dad in the middle of watching this, and I was like, I can't believe this. And he was like, I told you. So, but it's right at that cusp of time in the late '70s where they're saying, hey, if the administration and the man, they're like, hey, if you're going to do drugs, there's going to be other things that you're not going to be able to do, like play an amazing game of football. And football is everything, especially in Austin, Texas. So, we've got the kid Pink, right? The nickname Pink, played by Jeremy London.
Jason London.
Jason London, sorry. And he had, it starts with them having like this it's not a it's like a liver purity pledge, right? Where
Yeah.
he's
Yeah.
like, I'm not gonna toke the reefer, I'm not gonna smoke no pot, I'm gonna give up all that and be a good team member, and we're gonna kick butt in the fall as a senior. And he's really struggling with this decision. He's like, I don't know if I should sign it or if I should continue hanging out with my friends, because the coach is like, dude, these friends are leading you down a bad path. And he's like, they're my friends. What's wrong with this? Is it so bad that we just get high all the time? We're not hurting anybody. Like what's wrong with that, man?
Yeah. I'm gonna show up.
And
I'm gonna play football. I love that. I love there's just like a couple of the kids that are on the football team, and this movie is very not much not about like like cliques and things. Like you have the athletes, everyone's hanging out because they're all getting high. It sounds like an okay kind of situation. Maybe everyone's a little bit more chill, but I like the other like football players are like just sign it. We signed it. We're not going to do it. Just sign it. But no, Pink is very much like, nah, this is like against my moral code to sign this thing, to let the man keep me down. I like that, and he holds true to that kind of throughout the film. But yeah, the high school section is pretty fun, and then you get into kind of this hazing ritual. Definitely bullying is exactly what it is and how we would describe it as today. But it's kind of this hazing ritual that we're experiencing, where I guess the juniors that are going on to become seniors the next year at school. And then like I guess like eighth graders that are going to be going into like be freshmen in the high school basically have this hazing ritual, between the groups. It's kind of like surreal to watch, and it was kind of humorous and like interesting to see, but like like all of like the incoming like senior class like drive over to the middle school to basically like taunt them and be like, oh, we're gonna come and get you. But it's almost like this like trial by fire, like a rite of passage that you have to go through, right? So which I guess is,
mm,
I don't know. I'm not going to speak on behalf of hazing, but I guess that's what it's meant to be, really here for that. And if you come out on the other side of it, like Mitch Kramer does, you end up having like the best day of your life, right? You survive this trial, I guess. But that's kind of, I guess, the next major plot point is this, like I said, this hazing ritual that the kids are
mm.
going through as an introduction into the life of being a high schooler.
Yeah, and it's interesting because, it's just this accepted thing. Now I don't know if this is a picture of, what happened in the '70s. I'd never experienced anything like this in my high school.
Hmm.
It was not like this at all. It was more, there was kind of a rite of passage, but it was more like, hey, we decorated your locker and roasted you a little bit, that sort of thing. It was never physical. But I will say, like,
No,
here, what
no
I
moms
find,
pulling shotguns out at you.
nope. Oh, that kid totally deserved that. Oh, that guy. Ben Affleck, this is the one time where I'm like, he is such a jerk. He plays this character so well. This guy who's like failed twice so that he can continue to he can continue to haze people. That's a problem. And we all see that coming. But anyway, I loved, or I didn't love, I found it really fascinating that everyone was like, hey, this is the system. This is just the way it is. It's not a big deal. It's going to hurt, right? Especially getting paddled, like the rising seniors are
Like
making
they're like
special
making them in
paddles,
shop class. Yeah.
and they're like, yeah, this is gonna be amazing. Um, but it also remind again, it's like it's physical, so like the Karen in me is like really freaked out, but also it's like this wasn't that big of a deal. It was like, yeah, you're gonna get paddled, but then you're gonna wise up and you're gonna get through it. And then at the very end, like in between Mitch and Pink, for example, Mitch gets beaten pretty severely, and Pink feels bad for him. So he's like, all right, dude, you're done for the next couple of days, right? They're not gonna, why don't you come out with us tonight? And it'll also show everybody that you're cool. Like you're not gonna make a big deal out of something that's just not meant to be that big of a deal, right?
Hmm.
And it's kind of neat in a way. I don't know if that would, I mean, that certainly wouldn't sit well. Like this could never happen today. But I think that's also part of its charm is it's like, remember the days when you could beat the crap out of your
Remember the good old days. Yeah. Yeah,
out of
exactly.
your brethren and it was not a big deal. Yeah, so I don't know. I loved that piece. I found it interesting too that the girls hazing was just them laying down, being called a bunch of names, uh, being asked to go and like and say naughty things to upperclassmen, and then getting like drowned in ketchup, mustard, and flour, like, and then going through a car wash. I was like, that seems that I don't know. It's just interesting to me the dichotomy between like with boys we're gonna beat you and with girls we're just gonna
Right.
degrade you
Yeah.
a lot.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure. It was interesting to watch, definitely through the lens of, being 2025 or, definitely not even, being alive in the late 70s to watch that. But yeah, for the purpose of the story, like I said, it's kind of this ritualistic thing. Holding your feet to the fire. And if you come out on the other side of it, then it really does like form some sort of a bond, especially in the character Mitch Kramer, played by Wiley Wiggins, who I guess was like a local Austin kid who got the part and does a really, really good job in the film, which would have been tough because I think all of these characters, of course, were older than the ages they were meant to be portraying in the film, but I still think that there was a good 4 or 5 year age gap between Wiley Wiggins and kind of the rest of the cast. And I thought that he stood up to them really well, considering, these are some of the actors in particular, Ben Affleck and Matthew McConaughey, who would go on to become, some of the greatest actors, of this generation. Absolutely. So I thought that was interesting. And then, yeah, it kicks off. You kind of get through there. I do like the little interactions that Mitch has with his sister. I don't remember what her name was. Jodie Michelle Burke plays her, but kind of at the beginning of the film, you don't really know what's going to happen yet, and she's like, "Take it easy on my brother," like she tells one of the guys, and then later, Mitch finds out. He's like, or he's like, "I told him to take it easy on you." He's like, "What? Are you kidding me?" He's like, "That is the exact opposite of things that you want to say, because that is the exact opposite of what they're going to do." So I liked that. I liked the idea that Ben Affleck's character. What was his name is something. I don't even know. I lost it here. There's so many characters in this thing. O'Bannon.
Oh,
I like
O'Bannon, yeah.
I like that he was like a senior that failed, and all the kids just assumed that he did it because he just wanted to to partake in this hazing ritual. I thought that that was pretty funny there as well. And then after the ritual has commenced, it's time to go celebrate your summer of freedom, right? It's the summer of being seniors now. It's the summer of being accepted into this high school life for the likes of Mitch and them. And then there's a couple of things that we get to do, right? There's supposed to be this big epic house party where the parents are going out of town that totally gets blown because the beer guy shows up early. Thanks a lot, beer guy. You got in the way there. So what do? You hang out at the pool hall. I thought you might have liked the pool hall section, Texas pool
I
hall.
did.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. And then when that closes, you have to go. You drive around. You bust up a bunch of mailboxes. You knuckleheads, and then you end up kind of having this big epic. Summer night out under the stars in this
Under the
giant open
stars.
field.
Yeah, I really loved, first of all, this night never ended. It kind of reminded me of like Adventures in Babysitting, in the sense that like the night just went on and on and on. And so when you think about it, right? Like they have a baseball game. Mitch has a baseball game. That's like a 2-hour event. I don't know when that
It's
started,
they're
but
playing under the lights already, so
they're
it's
playing under the
probably like
lights. Then he gets beaten, right? Then they go to the Emporium. then, which is the pool hall, then that closes. So you're thinking that's what, 11 o'clock at night? Then they end up doing this mailbox thing where they almost get killed. Then Wooderson gets the line on a keg, and they go and they're like, hey, we're going out to this field of trees, like this forest thing. And they go and everybody parties all night. And then the sun starts to come up. And then it's time. They're like, hey, let's go to the 50-yard line and smoke some weed on the 50-yard line and just talk. And I really loved this because it felt like it never ended. And when you think about those times in your life, you also feel like, man, those summers never ended. That time period, you could go back there and like sit in it almost in your head. So it probably is my favorite part about this is that there were all these things that happened in way too long of a period of time. But at the same time, you were hoping, if you look back on one night, you probably remember all of these things that happened over the course of a summer, but to you,
Mhm.
it happened in one night. And I don't know if that was the plan. Again, this is maybe giving way too much grace to this film, but I think that maybe that's why the choices were made that it was that made it like this one whole long adventure because it
Mhm.
probably wasn't. When you think back to like certain days in your life or in my life where it was like, oh, I remember when this big thing happened. It probably didn't happen the way we remember it, but it strung together all of these events. And it
Mhm.
ended up being pretty fun because now you can talk about this one crazy night as if it was one night. It was great.
Yeah, you can talk about it like it is one night. And I think if you took like the collective memories of all of these kids and asked them about their best night, and you can condense that into this story, I guess that's being told or laid out here for us. So I thought that was interesting because yeah, the night logistically just does not make any sense. You mentioned he goes to the baseball game, which they're playing under the light, so it's already like dark out by the time the game ends. This is Texas in the summer. So I mean, the sun's going to be out until like 9:30 at night, right? So it's already super late and they go to the pool hall. They go like to this like drive-in like hamburger shop like a bunch
Hmm.
of times like over the course of the night. They're in and out of like the liquor store a bunch of times and the convenience store. They end up going to this field. So the only realistic part of it then is that they roll out off of the football field the next morning and the sun's up like that that makes the most sense. So that is true, and I love you get like Mitch going home and his sister's like he's like mom's tough. She's pretty tough. She's probably going to let you have one pass, and she does. She lets him have his one pass. She's like, are you drunk?" And she just lets him kind of be right. It's like enjoy this night, and then I'm back to being your mom after this, right? So even mom's on board with this rite of passage that Mitch has been on, and has been on a good one. He puts on the headphones there with Slow Ride on,
Snow ride.
which is a great tune. So that's pretty good. That's pretty good. Let's see. I wanted to talk a little bit about kind of the pool hall there. That's where we're introduced to the most important aspect of this film. It's David Wooderson's played by Matthew McConaughey. And I say that that's the most important piece of this film because if it wasn't for that, then we wouldn't have gotten all of the other things that Matthew McConaughey had been in. I think he was like uncredited in a music video like prior to
Mm,
this, and he
hmm.
was in apparently an episode of like Unsolved Mysteries as like one of the
Yep.
like acting actors, and then this, which is pretty wild because I mean he doesn't have like all that much dialogue, right? He says all right, and then he says all right, and he says that he likes redheads, and he asks if he wants if they're going to go to the Aerosmith concert a bunch of times. So that's about it. But and I'm not going to say anything that is groundbreaking or that people haven't said about Matthew McConaughey's performance here, but um, it's such like a niche thing that like any other actor would have played up, like they would have hammed up, this older like guy who's I don't know how old he was meant to be, 26 years old or something, like still hanging out
Mm.
with like the high school kids. Like they would have turned him into a caricature, but he was so like nonchalant about it, which is really like the magnetism of his performance
Right.
here.
Yeah. No, agreed. I mean, he's like a god to these kids. You probably have seen this kind of trope before, right? In other things, definitely in other films, other movies, where there's this kind of washed up character. He seems to be really washed up, although everybody kind of worships him. We don't get any of that drama from this. He's just
Hmm.
a guy. He's just a guy who drives a nice car. He's really proud of it. And he He likes his pool. He likes his beer. He likes his redheads. He likes people that are 18 or even younger. And we're not even grossed out by it. He's like, yeah, he's in his 20s, but he's just like, yeah, this is just who I am, man. It's fine. Whatever. And he's so understated. I think that that is one of the things that we didn't see a lot of in the 90s. We had a lot of like existential, like really big emotional films, emotional, like even like Good Will Hunting, right? Where, you have this trouble, there was always something that was really big and in your face about some of these performances. And that's great. That's fine. But this one was very understated. And I think that's one of the things that Matthew McConaughey just does really well. I mean, when he goes and I think he was a spokesperson for Lincoln, the car dealership, right? Or a
Mm-hmm.
Cadillac, something like that. And he was like, I'm just going to talk to you about this car that I think is really fun to drive. And everybody was like, oh my God, I got to go buy one. I mean, I thought they were for people that were 80 years old, but now I'm going to go get one because he's just so cool. And you're right. I mean, this could have been played by anybody else and it would have been a completely different character, would have been a completely different film. And he's so beloved, even though it's like looking at it as a 40 some odd year old person, it's like, ooh, that's real gross, almost.
Hmm.
But in the 70s, it was fine. Like it was, you weren't a wash up just because you didn't go to college or because you still hung out with people in your hometown. Like it was a little bit different too. So I really loved that character. It would be interesting to see like and I'm sure he's done interviews and things, but I haven't seen one recently now that his kids are about the age of
Yeah,
of of this, what that would be, what his thoughts are on that.
how that goes. Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, it does play it so nonchalant, and I think that's one of the interesting aspects of the film that I had rewatching it now, just in the last couple of days, is you definitely have like these like stereotypes of these kids, but they're so like tightly woven. They're not like caricatures of what you would think of, right? So you've got like the like quote unquote like jock one. I think is Don Dawson. I think is like the other like football player guy
Mm.
who's like the jock guy, but he's not like your like stereotypical like jock guy. You've got like your nerdy like stoners there, hey, Anthony Rapp and Adam Goldberg's characters, but they don't like fall into like the tropes that you think of like nerdy like outsider kind of characters would be. You have Pink, who's I guess kind of the main focus of this, but he's not even like this flamboyant like class clown kind of figure. You have the kid who's meant to have the house party. I don't even remember what his name is, who that was
Oh, that
there, but
was
he's not like this
Pickford.
like he's not like this like super stoner like
Mm.
guy like crazy like caricature of himself. So while you have like these certain tropes and these certain like you know cast of characters, they don't fall like so hard into those where there's definitely like I don't know. There's like a nice like nuance and flow between them all where they're not so separate. They're more equal, I guess, than separate. I don't know. I'm not explaining that very well, but hopefully you can kind of understand what I mean as they're not being, caricatures of
Right,
themselves. And
right.
they're more, I think they're more realistic to what your high school days would have been. Certainly, my experience, growing up in the 80s, there were kids who, played football or played basketball and stuff that would have been considered the jocks, but they weren't like that different than the kids that were, in band or, any of the other, kids that we had at school.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, for sure. I don't know. I think I don't, it would be interesting to see if there were actually any studies around what the effect of pot had on some of this, because you're right. One of the things that really amazed me about this film was that there weren't cliques. I mean, they were definitely groupings of the type of individual, but they all still kind of hung out together. They might not have liked each other, as much, or they didn't have best friends in, different groups necessarily, because we
Hmm.
definitely see that. But and we see that there are people that get into fights and things like that, but everybody still kind of went and did all the same things together, and it's very different now. I don't know if we can attribute that to the fact that everyone was getting high.
And I think it reminded me a lot actually while I was watching it of a film we talked about just a couple of weeks ago. So I don't know if this had any sort of inspiration to that. But Clueless, the film that we talked about, and Clueless was directed by the same director from Fast Times at Ridgemont High, which have a similar kind of
Hmm.
like class aesthetic within
Yep.
their school structures. So
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Absolutely. I think that those reasons probably are what make this film again kind of a film that's fun to watch, very nostalgic. The layers are definitely there if you're looking for them. Um, but I gotta say, if you're looking at it like for face value, I don't know, as a 40 some odd year old, I was like, what is happening? Like I understood what was happening, but I didn't understand what was happening until now, really talking about it with you, right?
Right.
I
Yeah.
think if you're just, and which is great. I mean, that's the great part of films in general is they can, in the most part, they you can get out of them whatever you want. So if you just want a slice of life, like, oh, this was the day,
Mhm.
and I love how they even start like school ended at 1:05 p.m. Did you know that? Did you see that at the beginning?
Yeah.
I was like, what? When did that change? We
Just
got 50 more years of history we got to learn. So I guess that accounts for the reason now that school ends at 4.
they're,
But it's crazy.
they're like, these kids are baked. Let's just let them go home. I like to even like go into the one like class and the teacher is like, "Are you gonna come in?" He's like, "I guess." And I don't know. It's the last day of school. Who cares if I do that or not? But yeah, I mean, you mentioned like the face value, and you kind of have to unravel it a little bit. Something I've said a couple of times now, but being this slice of life film, it's really more of like a character study versus there's some sort of definite like point A to point B of the plot that we're trying to get to. So a lot of a slice of life story is really going to come down to your own kind of personal experiences, A, and how well you can connect with these characters, B. So neither of us were children of the 70s, so that is out the door right now. We're not watching this in well, I watched it in my 20s. You did not. So, I mean, if you don't watch it in your 20s, you don't have anything really to tie yourself to these characters. So that's out the door now. You can look, I guess, potentially now, Michaela, you could look at the parents of these kids, maybe, or maybe the teachers. Maybe you get something out of there. So it's kind of predicated on that. And there are some certain exceptions. One of my favorite films of all time, Slice of Life story, is Lost in Translation, where you're just looking at, kind of this day or this just a couple of days of these people existing together. So that's interesting. But I feel like this movie is really going to be key on when you watch it and when you grew up. So I think if you watched this in your 20s and you had some sort of tie-in to the mid to late 70s, this is probably one of your favorite films of all time. If you watched in the 80s The Breakfast Club and were a high school kid in the 80s, that's probably one of your favorite films of all time. If you watched Clerks in the 90s and were a high school kid and had a dead-end job in the 90s, Clerks is probably one of your favorite films of all time. I think it's just completely uh, tied in to the fact that you have some
Hmm.
sort of shared experience with this day that's happening to these kids.
Yeah, no, I would agree, which makes me really excited because someday someone's going to make a film about the 90s that I'm going to be like, oh, this is the best film of all time. Um, that I'm going to identify with. But I think you're right. And it's okay. I mean, I remember at the beginning of this, I was like, oh God, this film. What even how are we even going to talk about this? Because there's just so much. But it does make sense that that is why it's so, you know, not triggering, that's not the right word, but activating for just a swath of people.
Hmm.
And it's pretty good. I mean, I love how just like it makes sense that this is Quentin Tarantino's one of his favorite films of all time because at the very end it all kind of comes together and it becomes this really the dialogue really starts to shift. And it's not just that we're watching the slice of life. We're seeing at the end that there's this glimmer of, hey, this is really where we get to make choices about who we're going to
Yeah.
be, like in these moments,
Hmm.
and who Pink decides he's going to be, right? And he decides to stick to his guns, and he's like, screw this, I'm not signing this. You can't make me sign it. If you want to kick me off the team, I guess you can kick me off the team, but I'm not doing that. I'm going to this Aerosmith concert. Uh, and they had to drive to Dallas that morning to go pick up the tickets, which I think is hilarious because today we'd be like, "What?" But that's what you had to do. You had to go pick up the tickets at the venue back when rocks were soft. Kids, that believe me, that's what happened. And so it's so I don't know. I just the more I talk about it, the more I'm like, yeah, it's I get it. I get now. I get it now.
Yeah, a lot of it does come full circle, right? Especially between, the characters Pink and Mitch, the incoming freshman there. And, it kind of puts a nice little like capstone on the lesson that they learned from this day, right? Pink's decided that he's going to be, like you said, Michaela, exactly who he wants to be. And that's up to you to accept that or not. And Mitch has decided he's going to be, king of the school, right? Just lived his best night ever, and he could get used to this kind of fun having now that he is officially in high school. Which I mean, even in the '80s and maybe even today, I don't know about how kids feel about it, but getting to high school just felt like this like peak, like pinnacle sort of thing. Like you made it, right? You're a high schooler
Yeah.
now. Like there was nothing greater than that. So that is Dazed and Confused. Kind of, sort of. It's a big mess of things that happen that you're going to be drawn to, or not potentially. I don't know, but let us know what you think about Dazed and Confused. Why it's your favorite if you've never seen it. If you make an all right cocktail to have with the movie, definitely let us know that and send us pictures, all that stuff. You can do it on our social medias. It's at Drink the Movies on Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, and Facebook.com/Drink the Movies. If you want to see pictures of the doobie that Michaela rolled there with her sage and oregano, you can find that and episode recaps, links to all of our things. That's on the websites, www.drinkthemovies.com. Go there, check that out. It also has a link to the Patreon. We appreciate our patrons so much. Definitely check that out if you want bonus content. If you want to support the podcast, it's the best place to do it. Patreon.com/drinkthemovies. Next week, we're going to be back with another film before we're back into the movie theaters, I think. So you're going to want to make sure that you're following along, getting the lobby bar, all that stuff. Michaela, where can they do that?
You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Good Pods, anywhere where Spotify podcasts are supported and distributed. We do 2 drops a week here at Drink the Movies. Generally, we do our lobby bar, which we talk about all the things happening at the box office and then make an easy cocktail that everyone, even you, can make. We do our deep dives like the one you just listened to today every Thursday. And look, we're so knocked out that uh, you as a listener have helped build this community because only you could do it. We just talk about movies and drinks. It's the best job ever. So if you're liking what you're hearing, leave us a 5-star review, share us on all the social medias. It really helps us get all the Drink the Movies goodness out there.
Absolutely. So that is going to wrap it up for episode 229, Dazed and Confused. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll talk to you next time on
Drink
Drink
the
the
Movies.
Movies.
I'd say all right, all right, all right, but I mean that's we did that like 6 times already. So
All right, all right, all right.